Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about Akhenaten, whose reign is from 1372 to 1355 BCE, and he is the heretic pharaoh. He's very famous for many things, such as having the wife Nefertiti. He has six daughters, three sons, um, but he is the son of Amenhotep III and Queen Tai, and he actually wasn't initially supposed to be king. He was supposed to be pharaoh. The son of Amenhotep and Queen Tai, who becomes Amenhotep IV, ends up dying. There was another brother that was supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, that Akhenaten was going to be king. Now, Akhenaten's that's not his real name. His real name was um, Amen. Uh, Amenaken. And then he really changed his name to Akhenaten. And what he does is he really radically shifts Egypt in the 18th dynasty, one of the most influential dynasties. At first, he proclaimed that he had a he removed polytheism from Egypt, and he proclaimed that from now on, Egypt was going to be worshiping Aten, the presence of the powerful Sun King. He changes the cult of Aten. He removes priests. He stops having temples being taken care of. He even moves the capital, which there was two capitals at the time, one in Memphis, which was the religious capital, and then also one in Thebes. And he ends up moving the entire dynasty to another place. He essentially moves it 200 miles into the desert in the middle of no man's land and sets up his own city, which is known as the city of a thousand horizons. He ends up really changing the course. He changes art at the time. He changes what the pharaoh does and also what the family of the pharaoh. Um, and he's viewed as heretical, because he changes everything. He throws Egypt into chaos. Now, Egypt is very conservative. It likes to maintain order. And Akhenaten said, why are we worshiping so many gods? We really need to focus on one, the most powerful God, and put our view on this. He is active in starting his own religion, and he rules for almost 25 years. And with this, he really changes the cult. He writes his own prayers for this religion. He is not passive when it comes. It wasn't suggested to him to do something differently. He really has this idea of monotheism, that maybe we should only be worshiping one God instead of having the gods fight, and having various gods to do. He also said that there was too much power in the priesthood. So he really moves away from this. And this is probably why he sets up his own city and his own capital, is because he probably upset enough priests and had to move from Memphis and subsequently Thebes, which was the financial capital. Queen Nefertiti was very big into this. She helped navigate political foray. He also takes the power away from the Egyptian military. And what it does is he stops sending out the military for tributes. He says it's a waste of money. We shouldn't be doing this. We should really focus on changing the course. In fact, there are aristocrats and there are other people who say, wait, we're being invaded, please help us. And he doesn't do anything. He doesn't send out the military. He refuses to do this. He's really focused on studying his own trend. He changes the art in ancient Egypt, so it's realistically viewed. He's viewed as being kind of handicapped and looks a little dumb. He has a large nose. He had a misshapen head. His children are viewed with misshapen heads. Sometimes Nefertiti is viewed as having a misshapen head. And so it kind of adds more realism to this. And this is a huge breakaway. He begins more text, more writing. And this is viewed as the big departure for the ancient Egyptians. It is viewed as a heresy, and he's often excluded from kings' lists. In fact, um, from his father, all from Akhenaten down. And this includes King Tut. Many of the the 18th dynasty rulers are removed from king's list. Akhenaten is removed. His son Tutankhamun is renewed, even though Tutankhamun restores the monarchy, restores the polytheism. He moves the capital back to Memphis and to Thebes as well. He starts the army again, and this is really done by his vizier Ai, who later becomes. When Tutankhamun dies, he doesn't have any children. In fact, he's buried with two fetuses, which were believed to be his two children. One at was about 8 months gestational and one about 5 months gestational, to show that he didn't have any life. Um, uh, um, he then um, he then tries to restore a lot of what his father does. He rebuilds the army, but it's viewed as too late. Egypt is viewed as being heavily weak. Tutankhamun, who comes to um, Tutankhamun, who comes into the throne, he's very young. In fact, his successor, which is Aye, ends up marrying his wife. And his wife, who is Akhenaten, who is his stepsister, ends up marrying his wife to gain privilege, and he was his vizier. And then you have the pharaoh. There's another pharaoh that's kind of uh, uh, viewed for a few months. He's removed from everything, and they're removed primarily by Horemheb. And Horemheb is the successor, and Horemheb spends his 30-year reign by removing evidence of Akhenaten, of Nefertiti, of Tutankhamun, of of the pharaoh that's only there's a mystery pharaoh that's there for a little bit. He removes them. In fact, he erases their names. He begins to etch out his names, and he actually rewrites history and says that he reigns for 50 years rather than the 30 years he reigns, primarily so that he can show um, in fact, that this heresy didn't happen, like trying to strengthen Rome. Horemheb was the military advisor. Well, actually, he was the head of the military under of Tutankhamun. One of the reasons Horemheb removes from the records is because was also the vizier uh, um, to Akhenaten. And so is removed from that, and Horemheb really does a job at trying to recreate history and says that this heresy didn't happen. So it's also viewed as the heretical dynasty. It is one of the most influential reigns of the time because it really shakes things up. It shakes things up with regard to family, with regard to art, with regard to burial. It also kind of rewrites. It eventually is rewritten so that they're all not on the king's list. And that's really important, that you have several dynasties or several people within the most influential and wealthiest dynasty is the 18th dynasty. When Horemheb dies, it ends up leading to another period dynasty because all of a sudden he doesn't have children, and there is a large amount of fighting, and they're never quite recover from Akhenaten's heresy. So that is the importance of Akhenaten.